Chapter 2. A new friend. Lucas and Lexi crept up to a window to see what was going on. There was a pack of dogs and foxes and wolves dressed in leather jackets and greaser haircuts. One of them was walking backwards with his hands up, as the others walked slowly to him. We are programmed to do as the boss told us, and we are not letting pipsqueaks like you sparking some revolution. Get over yourself, man. The leader of the pack raised his hand up, and the others stopped. Ik now Moxie, I would dunk you in the river rapids and strip you of your parts, but I love you like a brother. So say goodbye to your pals, because you have been dishonorably disowned. Good day, the leader said, as the other guys turned and left. The only other animatronic there was a sleek chic Kitty and her entourage. I always knew you had a screw loose. Perhaps that's what attracted me to you. Lucas and Lexi couldn't hear what the cats were singing, but they harmonized in a jazzy fashion. The three vocalized as they stepped back. Lucas and Lexi saw the back of the lonely mongrel slowly droop his ears and lower his head in shame. He turned back, and the two saw his face. He had a mix of orange and brown and black fur, and a swirl of hair on top. He had a pronounced white muzzle and big plastic cartoon eyes. He walked inside the sweets shop, much to the surprise of Lucas and Lexi. They shuffled quickly behind the milkshake bar to hide. The sad animal walked to a booth, took his hands out of his pockets, and laid his head on the table in his arms. Looking over her shoulder, Lexi did feel sorry for the character, even if it was a robot. Leave him alone. Lucas harshly whispered. We should do something for him. I don't think he has it in him to hurt us. She started crawling out of the bar, but Lucas tried to grab her back, with a sharp grunt a bit too loud than it should have. The mongrel raised his head from his arms in surprise. Hello, he said, with a whimper in his voice. He noticed Lexi's shoe peeking out from the bar. Just leave this shop and find another cover. I won't do anything to stop you, he said, dropping his head into his arms. Again. A moment of silence, and he thought he heard a pair of footsteps out of the place, but when he raised his head, he saw an arm on his shoulder. Are you okay? Lexi said, brushing her hand on his shoulder. The mongrel gave a faint smile. They greeted each other and gave names. Name's Moxie Mongrel. They started to converse. These laughing, joking, numbnuts and bolts blindly follow the boss's orders and capturing runaways in exchange for money, that all goes to the boss, and none for us. We are nothing but slaves and they'll just blindly follow their directive. I may be some 40-year-old robot, but that doesn't mean I can't think for my own, beyond my programming. The blessing of artificial intelligence. I was designed for the battlefield, but now I've been dressed to be a cartoon character. Sounds like a painful living, Lucas said. Well, maybe my goal is to be put out of my misery. They further discussed their plans with the map. Captain's Galaxy could be a swift journey. I rarely see anyone roaming there, Moxie said. Chapter 3, The Canary Robot and the Robot Canary. The trio were soon on the move, walking their way to Captain's Galaxy. There seemed to not be any bots searching for them, besides a couple encounters. Getting the hang of this, Lexi said in between gasps for air. Is it pathetic to take a break after 20 minutes? They got into Captain's Galaxy and stopped at an arcade. Out of all the places they've been to, the arcade was the most broken down. The gorgeous murals of nebulas and ringed planets were chipped, the windows were broken, pouring sunlight into the place. The tiles were covered in sticky spills and crumbs from the snack shack, and all the arcade cabinets were covered in dust, except for one, which caught Lucas' eye. It had handprints and bird footprints. It looked new enough for them to know that someone was just in there. Not some bot either. It was clearly human. Lucas felt a lump in his throat, feeling that there was someone in there with them, or near them, and he didn't know if they would be friend or foe. If it was human, then maybe they weren't the only runaways in the park. There's gotta be water somewhere, Lexi panted, jiggling the door leading to the kitchen behind the shack counter. She noticed something in the corner of her eye. Look. Lexi murmured. A bird. A yellow canary. Looked at the three with soft eyes. Is it real? Lucas said. Yeah. I've seen these before, Moxie said. Over by the bird garden. Chirp. Chirp, the bird said. Are you friendly? Lucas and Lexi looked in confusion. Yes, we are friendly, Moxie said to the bird. We come in peace. We are here to help. We. Lucas said. Yes we, a figure said, coming from their left. It was a woman in a skin-tight suit with fake armor wrapped around her arms, legs, and chest, with a helmet covering her head, but revealing her bright yellow hair. Her voice sounded echoed and robotic from the helmet. Who are you? Lucas said. Call me Oracles, Oracles, the woman said. And this is Paulie, she said, jerking her head towards the robotic bird. Did Tunharmon think we needed help? Lucas asked. I wish, Oracles said. I took on Beaglewood myself, a few years ago. Too bad, the gates closed on me. Been stuck here since then. What's it been, 5 years? No. Lucas sneered. We've never seen anyone else leave the PAV before, Lexi said. Oracles stood silent for a minute, dumbfounded at herself. I don't get it, Moxie said. I've never seen you before. We haven't seen anyone here in around a decade and a half. Well, I'll take that as a compliment, Oracles responded. And what's with the get up? Moxie said. Oracles is just an action figure from the back of a cereal box. I wouldn't call it one of Tunharmon's successes. Well, perhaps it's my way of not losing myself. Oracles was my hero. I used to watch those old tapes and take pictures of her on my wall. She abruptly snickered. That was a decade ago, you said? Lucas tried to cut off their chat. Well, right now we need to focus on getting through the gates. He dusted off a nearby table, with Lexi sneezing from all the dust in the air. He unraveled the map, now covered in wrinkles, and color worn off between the creases. We have around 8 hours until the gates close, and I'm not sure if that's a long amount of time. It can't be that easy, Lexi said. We got here only a while ago and only saw 2 of those robots. Well, the more we sit here like ducks, they may send more after us, Oracles said. She took off her backpack and rustled through the inside. One lifesaver I found in the galactic joyride are these laser blasters. She handed out 2 plastic blasters, preserved. So well, they looked good as new. When the lasers hit the machines in the eyes, their programming gets confused, and they shut down. Oh. That's very reassuring, Moxie said. Wait, do they wipe their memory too? Oracles paused. Maybe. That can explain a lot, Moxie said with a raised brow. Is that really all you have to get us out here? Lucas said, a bit puzzled. I've picked up a lot of trinkets and gadgets. I have a feeling they could help us, but I couldn't tell you what they do. Paulie glided down to Oracle's shoulder. And Paulie, she's just been my only friend. There were toys, souvenirs, and random spare parts, but the one thing that Moxie was curious about, a small key. How did you get this? He asked. Yurikles simply shrugged her shoulders. I believe this is a key to the underground. Nobody knew what he was talking about. I know the underground like the back of my hand, and I have a feeling we'd be able to get from point A to point B far faster than this maze ahead, he said, looking at the park in front of them. How safe is it? Lexi asked. Marksy took a second, and his ears drooped. Oh. I guess it would be more of a hotspot for trouble. Us guys use it as a lounge all the time. So, what do we do? Everyone seemed to have their eyes on Yurikles. Let's go underground, she said. Chapter 4, The Underground. Now it makes sense why that's there, Yurikles said, a bit dopey as they stepped up to a metal trapdoor. Yurikles kneeled down and unlocked the door. She tried to pull on the handle, but it was far too heavy. Marksy lightly pushed her aside and pulled up the handle as if it was light as a feather. He took the lead and climbed down the ladder. All the group could see was darkness that seemed to be never ending, if one stark light wasn't barely visible. The four climbed down, with Yurikles closing the door. They were now underground. Yuck, Yurikles exclaimed in disgust at the muggy light and bright white walls. She bent her arm forwards, with Paulie perched. Alright, I need you to go see if anyone's out here, and if you see M, chirp to us, Yurikles whispered, with Paulie responding with a small croak, and flew away. Lucas and Lexi were each tossed a blaster from Yurikles' backpack. Use this as a last resort. Follow me, Marksy whispered. I think I know the way from here to the saloon at Calamity Canyon. Come on. Every time Marksy had to hold his hand up to stop the group, Lucas and Lexi grew more annoyed. Why don't we just rush, guns blazing, Geo? Get. Marksy sharply whispered in between his teeth, trying to shove them to the next corner, unlit, with the other side pitch black. The four looked on, as a group of animatronics walked by the other side of the hallway. Lexi was close to having an anxiety attack, breathing hardly, and silently pouring tears. Lucas held her hand for support. Are you scared of the dark? Lucas said, a bit blunt. In our situation, that's quite rational, Yurikles responded. 8 Come on, Marksy whispered. They were close to getting out of the corner, but an anomaly in the dark noticed Yurikles' leg, as it almost cleared the corner. Who's out there? The anomaly said, in a menacing, but calm voice. At that moment, Paulie flew past them, screeching loudly, covering the corner towards Yurikles. Hee, Marksy said, awkwardly, as he popped out of the corner. Jabe, Jed, what are doing? Who are they? Lucas asked. The Birdleitner brothers, Yurikles whispered. Sheriff of Calamity Canyon, and Captain of the Galaxy. We heard some about your getting ditched by your partners, Sheriff Jed said. No, I just got lost again. Boss always over-exaggerates everything. Actually, it was one of the Perettis that informed us, Captain Jabe said. Marksy was speechless, unable to think of any excuses. We know you're hiding something, Jabe said. Move out of the way, Jed said. But unlike a human, Marksy was able to stay frozen, with his feet scraping across the floor. As Jabe and Jed got past Marksy, he immediately pulled on Jed's hand. Wait. No. Hang on. Listen. Please. As Jabe was able to look around the corner, with nothing there. He was a bit dumbfounded. What are you trying to pull? Marksy knew any excuse wouldn't work. Run. Marksy shouted on the run. For the love of Pete, run. The other three looked behind them. What the hell did he do? Lucas thought. They heard the heavy metallic feet of Moxie coming towards them. So much for keeping quiet, Oracle said, as she gripped her blaster. Get behind me. Be ready for anything. Lexi stood between Oracles and Lucas, looking all around her. Go. Just run. Moxie said, running past them, with the other three running along with him. Oracles looked behind her, and the two birds turned around the corner. Oh well. Take this, she thought to herself, as she held up her blaster, and took a shot. It missed, almost hit Sheriff Jed on the hat. In classic Sheriff Jed fashion, he got his gun out, and quickly drew. Too bad his revolver was a prop with confetti oozing out. Doom. Oracles shot Jed straight in the eyes. His system shut down, and he collapsed on the floor face first. Ballsy, she said. Throwing her arm to the side, Paulie glided towards Jabe, distracting him with her pecking beak. As he tried to pull Paulie off his face, Jed ran out of the hallway. Oracles rapidly fired, with Lucas following suit. After an orchestra of springy noises and red beams emitting from their blasters, Jabe was completely lost. Bonk. He hit his head on the wall, lost his balance, and fell. Paulie managed to squeeze in between Jabe's fursuit, and into his endoskeleton. His chest started to bulge, and he looked on with terror. Paulie ripped through his exterior suit. He shrieked like an opera Valkyrie. His system shut down, and he fainted. Paulie flew back, and perched herself on Oracle's shoulder, as she ran away. We just bought ourselves a whole lot of company, she said. Let's get out. They turned a corner, and met a dead end. They turned back, and realized that they had no straight way out. They were dumbfounded for a bit. How did Moxie get out? Lexi asked. Where'd he go, anyway? Lucas added. They looked on in confusion, accepting they were lost. Moxie, Lexi said, before Lucas slapped his hand over her mouth. I don't think they've noticed us yet, so use our second chance wisely, Oracles whispered. They walked aimlessly, over and over. The liminal space of long white hallways was starting to drive them mad. The occasional flickering light bulb or creaky settling of the place were the only things that broke the monotony, even for half a second. Soon enough, they didn't even know if they were walking in circles or not. More hallways. More boring lights. More monotony. More nothing at all. Even their whistling wasn't enough to keep them from wanting to shut down. The sounds grew less intelligible. There was no sign of Moxie, or an exit, or anything. The three could feel their brains melting into mush. Gasp. They heard a shrill exaggerated noise coming from the distance. What have they done to my brethren? The distinct voice Benny. Beagle said. Jabe was a true friend, a sun in a sea of stars. I never thought I'd see one of us mangled in this fashion. What madman would take this poor captain's heart? And Jed, the dramatic flair of his voice left. Oh, he just needs to be rebooted? Alright, good for that. But you do know what this means, gentlemen? We've got those rats in our maze, in an even more convoluted maze. And that Moxie mongrel is loose in here too, he hummed while he thought. We've got an hour and a half left. Perhaps an encore performance can really make this night magical. Tittles. The echoed clanking of robotic feet was accompanied by scraping of Jabe and Jed's bodies being carried out. Eventually, it was too much for Lexi to handle, and she broke into tears, leaning her back against the wall. Why did I ever want to come to this awful place? She sobbed. My family was right. I never should have wanted to leave. I want my mom. As she cried, Her tangent grew more unintelligible. She cried for a long time, and all Lucas could do was look at her. He never had to empathize like this before, but he could feel what she was feeling. "It's okay. Let it out," Oracle said to her, wrapping her arms around her. "I've been feeling the same for a long time." Finally, Lex's waterfall of tears started to end, with only sniffles left. "Guys," they heard someone whispering to them from the other end of the hallway. Marx's arm was visible, peeking out from the left. "Over here," he said, reeling in his index finger. They did so, with Lexi running to him with open arms. "Ay!" She shrieked as she was jolted forward to the end of the corner. Oracles and Lucas were startled, but didn't move, readying their blasters. A moment of silence followed. "Dang it, kid, why'd you ruin the surprise?" Benny Beagle shouted. "Where's Marxie?" Lucas said, as intimidating as he tried. Benny Beagle slithered out of the hallway. "Oh, I've got him in good hands," he said, holding Marx's head, who had his right arm and voice box torn out. With ease, Benny twisted Marx's head, with crackling of wires and broken metal parts. "Looks like Paulie isn't the only canary on with you, what I mean," Lucas said. "You know how a canary can mean a rat, a snitch, a tattletale, someone who can't keep themselves silent. I suggest you put down your blasters and come with me," Benny Beagle asked, kindly menacing. Paulie squawked at him and made a beeline to him, but with a simple back smack of the hand, Paulie shot straight to the wall, with her head caved in. Oracles knew to take the shot, but just couldn't. She lost the grip in her hands, and the blaster thudded on the ground. Lucas took a shot at Benny's eyes, but it missed, as one of the Beagle beatniks picked him up. He couldn't wriggle his way out, and couldn't move his arm up to shoot. The group was defeated, caged like animals. They were all in a wagon, being driven back up top. Chapter 5, Encore. After hours in dank, murky tunnels, they could finally see sunlight creep down to them, but that sunlight didn't bring joy or good news to the three. Lucas and Oracle sat, pouting about their past day. Lexi was crying for so long that there weren't any tears left. "After so many years of being together, they just took her from me," Oracles thought to herself. "And after just finding one bot that could lead me out of this mess, what a stupid mongrel," Lucas thought to himself. The wagon eventually stopped, and the three looked all around them. They were clearly on the other side of the park. "What do you want to do with us?" Lucas shouted. "Tell me. Right now." "Oh, why spoil the fun?" Benny Beagle said. "What does Toon Harmon want with dead bodies, anyway?" Oracle said. "Dead bodies?" Benny chuckled. "Dead bodies? No, dear one. You'll simply be, well, I don't remember," he said, drooping his ears. "Please just let us go." Lexi whined. "For a company hellbent on conserving money, this seems like a very expensive operation," Lucas said very smugly. "What do you mean?" Benny asked. "Everyone in the PAV, whether they want to act like it or not, has had enough of your greedy schemes. If you can't bother to fix the grocery store that's been leaking for the last 3 years, what makes Michael T. Harmon and his bootlikers want to spend years chasing some random kids around?" A moment of silence. "Oh, heavens. Me, I'm late for the green room. I need to go." Tiddles. Two tall animatronics opened the top of the wagon and told the three to get out. They escorted them to the large courtyard. A band of trumpets sounded, accompanied with canned applause coming from the speakers of the Benny Beagle parade float. "Ladies and gentlemen, Boys and girls, Beaglewood proudly congratulates our heroic contestants. Like a concert hall giving a majestic performance, these gifted few deserve an ovation, with a shower of color, and a symphony of angels' voices. Let us have our encore performance. The canned applause died down, and all was quiet. A synthesized melody frantically played, as a cast of characters rose onto their float stage. The melody was played on a toy piano, by one of the Perites. Benny Beagle was about to sing his solo. Boom. A large flaming cannonball struck the parade float. The music whined to a halt. A truck drove up through a newly made hole in the wall. Benny was cut off, as he burst into flames. Everyone looked at their flaming bodies, like they were soaked in water. Nobody panicked in pain. "Who are you?" Benny Beagle said audaciously. "Shut your ugly trap, eh?" mysterious someone said, shooting Benny in the chest. Slowly, Benny took a 20-foot fall, with a shrill crash. The three were both horrified, and overjoyed to see that cur dying, as its voice distorted further, and further until it was nothing but distorted radio garbling. The voice was attached to a burly man, dressed in biker leather, with blue frosted tips for hair. "Who are you?" Oracles asked. "Name's Hendrix." "We're busting you out tar here," he said, gripping Oracle's hand firmly. "Get in the junker. We're heading for Neon City." The three got in the old minivan, and they rode off, and were on the road. Lucas and Lexi looked at the path getting smaller and smaller. "I guess this is goodbye," Lucas said. "Is Neon City any better?" "Well, we got fresh water, good food. The DVD would probably blow your mind. A PlayStation 2 apostrophe D probably blow your mind," he said, chuckling to himself. "We have to go back," Lexi croaked. "What will happen to my family?" "Welp, we're trying to help them out there. With you three joining our little resistance, that may be the possibility. Benny Beagle's now Benny busted. Who knows how long Toon Harmon can keep up their little games."